And now, your weather authority.
Welcome back. The National Hurricane Center Deputy Director Jamie Rhome joins me now to talk about the 2025 hurricane season forecast and important preparations you can make now to prepare for the Atlantic hurricane season. Deputy Director, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having us today.
All right, first things first, hurricane season is officially beginning on June 1st, so now exactly 1 month away. What does the 2025 hurricane season forecast look like, and what is the National Hurricane Season predicting in the Atlantic?
Well, it's a bit too early to project, what the season's gonna look like. And some of those seasonal forecasts, they don't tell you as much as a lot of people assume. I can tell you what I'm doing. I tested my generator and tuned it up this past weekend. That gives you a sense of how I'm preparing for the season well before June 1 to make sure that I'm fully prepared to protect my home and family if a storm were to form early in the season.
And I guess, what goes all into the forecasting for the hurricane season? Any kind of new technology you guys are rolling out for the 2025 year?
Well, a lot of people focus on the presence of El Nino or La Nina in the Pacific Ocean. And while that is one of the larger determinants of the season activity as a whole, it's not the only determinant. And that's what sometimes gets people in a bind. They look at El Nino or La Nina and make an assumption about the season. But there's probably anywhere from 5 to 10 other factors at play. And so the hard part of the seasonal forecast and why it's impossible to say how the season is going to unfold this early is, those factors are sort of coming and going in time and space. And we have to really get into the meat of the season to see how, they're going to come together or not come together.
Yeah, and I guess we'll say, from this last year, we saw an above average year and we saw 5 Gulf Coast landfalls. Are we expecting to see something like that again for this 2025 year?
It's hard to know. I mean, we've been in this really active period for the last 10 years or so, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. It's been extremely busy in the Gulf of Mexico of late, and but hurricanes run in cycles. They run in these. We call it a multi-decadal cycle, which is fancy word. They tend to go in cycles of active for 20 or 30 years and then inactive for 20 or 30 years, and we're trying to figure out where we are in that cycle and what that might. You tell us about the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I got one more question for you here. With people new to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, like first time moving down here, what preparations would you advise or any sort of advice you'd give them for their first kind of experience for the hurricane season?
The biggest thing is to think beyond just a basic hurricane supply kit. Just think beyond just non-perishable foods and water. Really need to think about how to withstand being without power for several days to upwards of a week. These power outages are lasting longer and not necessarily just an inconvenience. In some cases, it can be very difficult and life-threatening, especially for medically sensitive individuals who rely on power for various reasons, and then the oppressive heat that often comes with these storms in the aftermath. Some sort of way to keep yourself cool in the days after.
Jamie Rhome, the National Deputy Director of National Hurricane Center.
Thank you.
And here is the list of hurricane names that or hurricane and tropical storm names that we will be using for this season. We've got a long list here, of course. Everyone has their favorite that they're watching out for. But even too, as we come closer and closer towards hurricane season, we are already watching out for some smaller activity in the month of May. It's usually little to nothing, but it's really ramping up until the 1st. June 1st is the start date of hurricane season this year, and then we're really ramping up as we go in towards September 10th being the peak day for watching out of that hurricane activity and tropical storm activity. And we do have Colorado State's forecast as of right now. We don't have the National Hurricane Center, as you just heard, but they will release that here in a matter of a few weeks. So we are still watching out for another above average year.